Hello everyone, I'm Pastor Dave Deckard, and this is our Thursday Thoughts segment when we say goodbye to the gospel of the week behind and say hello to the week to come. Now, last Sunday, we had that delicious story of Jesus foretelling his death and resurrection to everyone around, and Peter, one of his disciples, pulled him aside and said, "Hey, big guy, let's talk about this for a second. I think we need to find a better plan." And Jesus said to Peter, "Hold on a minute. I know you mean well, but you're a broken person in the midst of a broken world just like everybody else. No offense, but I don't think you could see your way out of a paper bag, let alone to perfection and salvation. So you know what you got to do? You got to exhale a little bit. You got to breathe out that hubris that says that you know the way and it has to look like you. And instead, you need to listen and get behind me and follow me. Because it's not up to you to do it. You can't. Instead, I'm going to do it. You come along and witness and benefit and learn and share that goodness with everybody else." Which actually is a great job description for what we as Jesus' followers do. Except you'd be surprised at how hard the church tries and struggles to get into Peter's shoes in this gospel while staying out of Jesus' sandals. How hard the church works to define life on its own terms and existence on its own terms instead of actually following Jesus. The last people you would think to not listen to Jesus should be church people, and yet here we are. I have lamented this with fellow pastors for years and seen a whole lot of nods. You can tell that we do this because of what we're good at talking about. Churches are really good at talking about their beliefs and their history and their convictions and their creeds and the programs that they do for X, Y, and Z. And if all else fails, they'll talk about how good their pastor is and how wonderful, etc., etc. Now, all those things are fine to talk about. They're good things, especially that pastor one. But the one thing that we don't talk about, even when the Gospels come around and state it explicitly, is death and resurrection. Most people in church don't get why that's a part of the story, or at best it's a symbol or something like that. We prefer to end around death just like Peter did, and instead presume that salvation means all of us staying just like we are for eternity. And Jesus looks at us and says, "I'm sorry, I love you. And because I love you, that can't be so. Because broken can't last forever. And there needs to be something new." And that's the other way you can tell churches are really bad at putting themselves in Jesus' sandals, following him, and talking about death and resurrection. Because churches will do anything they can to survive, because they carry an implicit assumption that God works through them, and if they're not here, God's work won't be here. And I can't tell you the number of times we've heard that. In annual meetings, you've got to give to the church or else this won't happen. If this won't happen, it's doom. Or we got to get new people in here for the sake of continuing. Or get this one. You can't change anything because changing something would cause people to leave. And if people leave, then we will fall apart. And if we fall apart, there is no faith. Do you hear exactly what Peter was saying? Existence is defined by me being here, and not only me being here, but me being here exactly as I think I should be, exactly as I am, with my proclivities and my biases and my everything, and Jesus has come to extend me forever. Well, Jesus has come that you might have life eternal. But there's a little thing in the middle of that called dying. And in the dying, we lose the brokenness and the sin and the whatever. And that is the stuff by which we know and define our lives. So you could say, in a way, that in dying, we lose ourselves And in rising again, we become who we were meant to be. And that needs to happen, not just for us as individuals, but for the church. A church that will not die and rise again is a church that is not following Jesus, but at best Peter, and really not following Peter either, just simply following themselves. And all the fear that they live by doesn't change that, and all the conviction that they say they have doesn't change that, and all the resistance to change doesn't change that. It simply proves that it's true. We as a church, all churches, need to become more conversant with this idea of death and resurrection for us too. And then we need to re-examine how, when, where, and for whom we do, and we speak, and we learn. And when we do that, we will be closer to following the gospel we heard on Sunday than anything we've been trained to do so far. That's our Thursday Thoughts. On Sunday, coming up, we are going to go to the Gospel of John, and we are going to hear about Jesus overturning tables inside the temple. More fun for church folks. We will see you then. Find us at lightofthespirit.church and join in the conversation.